Yeah, I hope so. It's a fun project.
We're going to get started. So just hitting 7. So welcome everyone to our Corporate and Community Services meeting. I'm Councillor Cody Davies, the chair of this committee. I'll start with a statement of acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge this land that we meet on today is the traditional lands for the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. So we'll move on to attendance. Roll call. We have one apology from Councillor Goldstone and one leave of absence. Do we have any motions to grant leave of absence? If not, no non-attendance. We'll move on to the public open forum. So we have two presentations on here at the moment, as you can see up on the screen. Is there anyone else who'd like to present for the public open forum? If not, then Martin Johnson, come on up.
Thank you, Cody, and thank you, everybody. Yes, I'm going to talk about some ideas I had for the 2022 Gawler Fringe. And all this came about was my walk around the block the other afternoon, and Cody Davies was walking around the block too. Poor bugger, I ran into him, gave him a lecture about what I thought about the Gawler Fringe. He said, well, why don't you come up to our meeting? And I said, okay, thank you. So I've sent through some info of some of my ideas to all the councillors. And so what I strongly believe with what I want to try and bring to the Fringe next year, and I've got some key things I say: keep it fresh, make things different and interesting and new. And this is, I strongly believe, is the reason why my Change Original Music Festival was so well attended and successful. I'd have up to 8 different bands with a mixture of genres every year, and over 7 years with an average of 6 bands per weekend. And once I had 12 bands over 3 days, 40 plus groups perform with no issues every time. What I did was have different musicians each occasion, because I wanted to keep things fresh and not just be, the convenient of having the same bands each year type of thing. So it did keep things fresh, and it gave a lot of different musicians a chance to perform their work, which is often held back if you have the same musicians every time. So it really opened things up. It was really great, and that's the sort of thing I like to do. Now, following on from my exhibition of paintings here with Sally Brock, this for the inaugural art exhibition, that was great. And well, I come up with another idea. I don't want to hog the spot after saying it, get different people, but I'd like to do a joint theme of paintings and photographs by Daniel Down. He's well known and very, very talented photographer with some well-known locations and scenes which will have an edge to them. To me, the word fringe means edge. People want to experience new ways of seeing the ordinary every day. So what I've called the exhibition, joint exhibition, will be colours, moods, and shapes of Gawler. I've already made a good start on the paintings, and I've written some new poetry to go with some of them, which I'll have a little book, similar to one I've just done with Williamstown, where there's different areas leading into the town. And I've written some poetry and some little historical information about each setting, which I will do with this little book, which will be, plan is to have it launched here. If this is accepted by the committee or Sam Gang and Linda, we'll discuss all that later. Where is Linda? Oh, so that would be fantastic. To have a combined exhibition like that. I'd also like to include my Autumn Gawlers map, original music, art and poetry in the 2022 Fringe program. That date is Sunday, the March the 6th, and it's held in the Beer Garden of the Prince Albert Hotel. And I'll repeat a poetry reading. I will read the poems from the book. If this goes ahead next year, I'll do a poetry reading. And also to do a poetry reading with live experimental music. That does it perfectly. So that would be happening in the March MAP, as I call it, autumn session. And if I can say, Mayor Karen has attended a couple of these now over the last couple of years, and it's a wonderful afternoon. People really enjoy it. It's mum and dad and the kids, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's all finished, wrapped up by 5 o'clock. Never any problems, no incidents. And it's just a wonderful way to expose people in Gawler who love the arts to new concepts, and not just artists in Gawler showing to Gawler people. But for instance, we had Holly Clark from Manham this year, and it just works so well. It's just great. I love it. And it's supported by local business too, which is fantastic. So I just want to say this live music that accompanies, well, with myself performing my poetry does work. I made 2 CDs, one Howling with the Hounds, I called it, in 2010. I had a group of musicians called the Chapel Hounds. They played flutes, saxophones, everything. And we put together a CD. We performed it live at the Governor High Marsh Hotel. The place was packed to the rafters. And as soon as Nigel started playing the saxophone, everyone and listened. We did it live on air in Radio Adelaide. Phone lines were running hot. People liked that stuff. So in 2013, I come up with another idea to do another CD and another live performance with local musicians, Brian Cullen and myself, performing poetry that I'd written about Gawler, and he wrote some songs about Gawler. Peter Gers came up and launched the CD for us in the Beer Garden at the Prince Albert Hotel. 42 degrees heat. At least 80 people jam-packed in there. Every room in that place was full that day. No one moved because they were hearing things they hadn't heard before. And they really loved it. And so I'm very positive and optimistic that this would work again. I won't be making a CD this time, but I'll be performing. What I've done before, I did a show, I think 2015 and 16 for the Gawler Fringe when it was in the alleyway. And it was art house theatre style, I like to call it. I performed that at the Gawler show, Cafe Nova, all over the place, and it really worked well. So that would be another aspect of the combined art exhibition and photographs. And at the MAP event, I would perform my poetry with experimental music by Matt Caroline Trio. They are locals. And this would be followed by the trio performing a selection of their own original songs and music. So it's just fabulous. And of course, I would promote this the best way I can through my newspaper and radio contacts. And also, I'd like to say about, well, what else can I say about the Gawler Yellow Door Street Band? 8 fine musicians donating their skill and time to raise funds for Gawler-based charities every third Saturday of the month. So we're back on deck this Saturday coming. We did raise over $1,000 for St. Vinny's Christmas Appeal, and recently a donation of $500 to KISS, Closey's individual support service for people suffering from mental health and physical problems. So I would like to, the band would like to repeat what we called our Murray Street tour. Prince Albert Hotel Saturday, and then the following Saturday at Gale's Poetic Justice Cafe. Gale even got out there and sang Proud Mary, so that was something. She thinks she's a superstar now. Actually, it was a lot of fun. And then we played at the town hall on the portico. We raised a fair bit a day over that, and it was a big help for that $500 we gave to KISS. So I'd like to suggest if the Gawler's Yellow Door Street Band could do that again next year. So I guess these are solid ideas that I have begun, and with the help of Daniel Down with his photography, with our colours, moods and shapes of Gawler, it will give things a different perspective than what maybe you're used to, and create interest. That is the main thing that I like to try and do. I'm really relish the chance to come up here and see you. If anyone wanted to ask me a question before I sit down, that's fine. But so that's the ideas I've put together, and we will follow those through if everything is accepted by the Fringe Committee group.
Thanks. Did anyone have any questions? Oh, yep, Trustee Hughes.
It's probably not a real question, but it's more to thank you. But as I understand it, all your ideas sort of filter through to Linda and through the team, and Joe, really important and handy. So thanking that, just I suppose double checking that process, but I could get an answer on that, I suppose.
Thanks, Cody. Through the chair, yes, certainly Martin's ideas have come through, and Linda and Sam Ergang, who looks after civics and ops, have already got those, and they'll be in touch with Martin in due course.
Well, once again, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Martin. Thanks, Daniel, who's becoming a bit of a regular here. So, all right, next up, we've got Pam Young and Marvin Kennedy from Domestic Violence Network.
Good evening, and thank you very much. I'd also like to introduce Sandra Sullivan, and Martin's now here, that's great. We are also Zonchans, and Martin, of course, you know very well through the White Ribbon campaign. And we have been watching very closely what's been happening down there at the old toilets, and heard about the Pocket Park and thought that this might be a wonderful place to create a memorialisation of women who've been murdered through domestic violence. It's actually a project that's been created in other council areas, including the Council of Onkaparinga, where a group of women, and I don't know if you've heard of Helen Oxenham, she's the woman who set up the first shelter for women suffering domestic violence. And she has established a group called Spirit of Woman, and they got together with the city of Onkaparinga and have set up what they call a place of grace, where you can go and reflect on various issues around domestic violence, and you're all very aware how it has spiked through the COVID pandemic. And we thought, what a lovely place of reflection that could be created on the reverse of that beautiful wall that's going to be replaced, the old mural that's going to be reinstated. So we're looking at some cultural change. You know the work that we do around this area, re domestic violence and the awareness raising, but it is a cultural change we're looking at, and this would be another way to help create that change, and a fantastic opportunity for Gawler Council. Adelaide Council, by the way, they've got something happening in the pipeline. They're looking at mega dollars, but we're pretty conservative with what we would need, and we would look at the fundraising ourselves as much as possible. But obviously, we would love to have the green light from council. At this stage, it's a fairly early idea, a baby idea, but we have huge confidence that the community would love something like this in the, and that area is going to be really fantastic when it's finished. I think Gawler needs more and more of those kinds of beautifications. So I guess too, we see this as a slightly similar idea to the, now I'm not sure of the correct name of the memorialisation of babies who have died in the Williston Cemetery. There's a correct name for that. Thank you, the precious souls. That's right, it completely. But in a way, it's a similar kind of concept. So Sandra Sullivan here is an expert with mosaics, because this would be a mosaic mural, and she'll follow on and just let you know what it might look like.
Thank you, Pam. So this project, we've been looking at, as Pam said, the rear wall of the rear of where the Pioneer mural is on one side. We would be on the other side, facing into the garden. We would have 3 panels across which mosaic picture would be presented. We are looking at, as Pam said, a mosaic made from different tiles, glass, multi. I myself would manage the project, being that we would like members of the public, particularly women, to come along and make part of this mural to go into the mosaic. So the mosaic itself is mainly going to be a floral with a mother and child in the centre panel and trees, just a scene, a garden scene as such. So did you want to see a quick hand drawing of what we might be?
It's a very initial concept.
Hang on, which one is it? Not that one. So this, yes, so this is like a kindergarten drawing of what we are looking at proposing.
Can you see a little bit of that? There you go.
So we basically want to memorialise women from different cultures, particularly groups of women, no particular one group of women. We want all women, different backgrounds, whether it, sorry, I've just lost my place here. So women from different religions, different cultures, different groups, definitely non-political. And we'd like to also include into it some Aboriginal elements. So like the tree, I'm thinking the tree might be great in an Aboriginal pattern as such. But the main idea is to get women from all these different groups to make these flowers, which are going to go into the mural. And in particular, we'd like to make sure that we add the colour yellow, the yellow rose being the Zonta rose symbol, and also it's the colour of remembrance. So as in such, we think the project would cost around about $5,000, of which we would find the money ourselves. And pretty much, I would like to know if anyone has any questions. Yes.
I think we do have some questions.
Mhm.
Well, first, are there any staff that, I realize all the staff here are from library and community services and we don't have any engineering people, but in terms of the reverse of that wall, does anyone know?
Thank you.
Any comments on the viability of that?
Briefly through the chair, we haven't been directly involved in the project at this time, but our engineering team are very much on board and very supportive of the project. So we know they have no issues with the
Yes, we
mural
have
going.
spoken with
Yeah.
Wendy and Josh. We've actually been with them over at the site just to have a look, and I do have a map of the site, so we've got a fair idea of the area that we could use, and I've spoken with Wendy also about materials, of what would work to stay up to make sure that it stays there for 100 years, she said. So hopefully that's what we're looking at doing.
So questions, Councillor Fraser?
I did have two questions, but one's been answered. The first one was whether the wall would be strong enough. But the other one's not really so much a question as it is a suggestion.
Yes.
From what I can gather is the budget, the new budget, there's going to be some money in there towards domestic violence. So
Oh,
maybe
that's
there
interesting.
could be a grant there for you.
So we are looking, we don't think we would get one grant from any one particular group. So we would be looking at maybe getting a few different grants from different places, one being the council, hopefully, and maybe Country Arts SA, and yeah, a few other places that we might be able to, so that we don't have too much from any one place.
I'd actually be looking at the federal budget, the federal government for one as well.
Okay, that's interesting.
It is about that time, pre-election budgets.
Yes.
So Mayor?
Thank you. So what is the exact name of the project?
Well, these precincts are called a place of courage,
Place of Courage.
Mm-hmm.
but we can actually call it whatever we like, but that is a term that's being used in the other two council regions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Councillor Kosh?
Yeah, thank you. Just wondering, so each flower would represent a person that's lost their lives through domestic violence? Is that the?
Not so much.
so much?
It's possible that somebody who has lost
Yep.
a family member or something like that may wish to come forward and make these flowers. I actually have a home studio, which I'm going to open up to people to come along, and I will instruct them on how to create a flower and make sure that the quality is there before it goes into the project. But certainly we're hoping that maybe we can get some the Bunyip to do a story on this, and which will encourage people to come forward and be a part of the project. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
Well, at this stage, I might just ask Martin Kennedy, representative of White Ribbon, I'm sure you all know him, to just say a few words.
Right, thanks. Because it's a Zonta project and a Gawler Domestic Violence Network project, I've come along as part of the Gawler Domestic Violence Network. I've been on it since it started. Before that, for 16 years, up at the Barossa Domestic Violence Action Group. I'm now a White Ribbon community partner because they sacked all the ambassadors, but that's just politics. Because there was thousands of them and they weren't doing much, but there's 75 Australia-wide community partners, and I've got in early on that. So I've come along to say, as part of the Gawler Domestic Violence Network, it was brought out at a meeting, and I went, well, even though our main focus is education and awareness, so that we get to the public, this is a sideways way of doing that. As you walk past this place of courage, it'll just remind people. As we know that the banners that we put up the last 16 days of activism, 3 years in a row, we've got feedback from victims who have said when they see those, we get more courage. or this place of courage will just increase that awareness, that confidence that they can actually leave and get away from their situation. So that's why I'm here to support it. And thank you for having us.
All right, thank you. I'm sure, sounds like you're already in contact with staff, but I'm sure they'll follow up on that one. You want to put up a motion? Later, yeah. All right. Yeah, we'll get around to, it sounds like a motion without notice in a bit. So first, let's get to declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? If not, we will move on to confirmation of minutes. Mayor moves. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Kosh. All those in favour? All those against? All those in favour? Everyone has to vote. Unanimously carried. So I believe you are a member, Councillor Sam, or you're at least on the, you're listed on there. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So next we'll go to, I think, business arising from the minutes. Does anyone have anything? Yeah, thanks for coming along. If not, we'll move on to officers' reports, youth development overview. So we do have a presentation for this one. Yeah, feel free to come on up. The chair, Renee, was going to be here, but she's sick, and we've got our former chair, Angus, here, as well as Debbie, who's our youth officer.
Thank you. As most of you are aware, I haven't been in this role for very long. I have been with Town of Gawler for a little while. I've had the privilege of being in this position since September, seen some wonderful programs happen and some really great changes in the youth space itself, helping youth find work, promoting programs which gives them skills, also some health programs, after school programs which build social skills and life skills as well with the young ones. It's been a really privilege for me also to be involved in the YAC committee meetings, and I will let Angus explain a little bit more about how they work and go from there.
Well, I've been with the Youth Advisory Committee for about 5 to 6 years, since Councillor Cody Davies introduced me to the committee.
Yeah, you came on the committee and then I got kicked out next month.
We basically high-fived in
I got
passing.
kicked out for being too old, but I'm back now.
And I've kind of seen the various youth advisory committees committee members, come and go over my tenure. I'm nearing Cody's age when he left, so I'm nearing the boot point.
Oh, grandpa.
Yeah. But what I've seen with the Youth Advisory Committee has been amazing throughout my tenure. We run lots of programs for various youth community members and get them active and involved in the Gawler community. We've got a whole bunch of programs going on. I don't really know what much to say. Yes, recently we of course ran our Youth Week events that happened over the school holidays, which was 2-3 weeks ago, if memory serves. I'm at uni, so it's slightly different time that we have on holiday, but the programs went through very, very successfully. We had a small celebration for Bike Month that took place, run by one of our community members on our vice chairperson, Jack Gill, who basically ran that through. It was the bike essay. I keep on thinking services essay, but that's wrong. Yes, through bike essay, where we got someone to come down and talk about bike safety to a packed out event of young people, which was really good to see. I think a lot of our events do have pretty high numbers, and so we get a lot of people. We have a lot of impact with all the different events that we run, which is really good to see as a community group.
So did anyone have any questions? Otherwise, yeah, thanks for coming along on short notice as a replacement speaker.
My pleasure.
I know that's difficult. Yeah, was there anything else
No.
anyone want to add? All right, great. Yeah, well,
Thank you.
yeah, Mayor?
Just an update on the transport issue. I know you had a subcommittee.
Yes. So the subcommittee is being led by Isaac Solomon, who's a very active member of the Youth Advisory Committee and has been causing no end of headaches to council staff with lots of questions about procedure and different plans, most notably recently the tourism plan. But we've also been looking at transportation problems with Gawler, primarily focusing on youth issues, given the closure of train lines and the closure of vehicle on the road, and I think the electronic testings as well are having issues, just the cuts to services essay in general. That's been going interestingly. We've been slowly receiving increasing amounts of reports from the community. The other week I saw on social media on a Reddit page, r/Adelaide, which has got 10,000 people, a post specifically about the Gawler train line and the replacement buses and people's issues with those. So it's kind of been collecting information slowly. Isaac's had his work life pick up as well. So it's kind of, as usual with volunteers, we're being pulled in multiple directions by multiple things. We are slowly getting to it, but it's one of those works in progress that have no clear end date ahead of us. Much like the construction projects for the Gawler train line.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is, I think the Youth Advisory Committee has been very, I think, impressive over the last couple of years. When I joined, there was, it was mostly, motions that went to council were mostly like, oh, we accept these people for the sports sponsorship and that kind of thing. But at the moment we've been getting, you just had a great tourism presentation and a bunch of questions about Gawler tourism, thanks to a motion that went out last month from Isaac. So yeah, it seems like it's been doing very well lately.
That's kind of one of the good things about the age restriction program is, while I'll be leaving soon, we constantly get that new turnover of fresh blood, which is really important for a small group like that needs to constantly adapt to the current generations and make things entertaining and engaging for all.
Yeah, no, and if you want to be entertained and engaged, these Tuesday afternoons, I believe they're doing magic. They were doing yo-yos and card tricks and all sorts of things this afternoon. So it sounds like fun. Then tomorrow they're doing Pokemon, if anyone wants to learn that one. So yeah, well, thanks. If nobody had any other questions, we'll go to the motion. Mayor's happy to move that way. Deputy Mayor's happy to second. Do we have any discussion? Yeah, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thanks, Angus, and thanks, Deb, and thank the YAC committee for all their work and all the volunteers that work in the youth space. It is a success story of the Civic Centre, but I think the whole Civic Centre is a success story. I think the youth development over the last, few years has been quite simply outstanding. And I think that was a big gap for quite some time in the services to youth in our community. And I think we're addressing that. There's always more we can learn. It's not a bottomless pit of money, of course. Just put that out there. But I really love the type of programs that are coming through the youth space, particularly around health and wellbeing. That continues to be the #1 issue that comes through the surveys again and again. And so it's really good to see that that's being addressed and young people are getting the benefit of those programs. So yeah, thank you for your work, and I commend the motion. Thank you.
Do we have other discussion? Councillor Hughes?
Just to echo what the Mayor said, and the report is fantastic as well, and it really paints a really good picture as well. So thank you very much for the detailed report as well. So that's really good.
Oh, if there's no other discussion, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Okay, so 7.2, volunteer update. Mayor's happy to move. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Little, anyone wish to speak? Yep.
I won't take up too much time, but in the report it says we've got 103 registered volunteers over 8 different programs. I think it's quite clear that without our volunteers, we wouldn't be able to deliver what we deliver. So I think we've got a really healthy volunteer program. There's always opportunities to bring in more volunteers, but it's really, really good to see every time I go to a volunteer morning tea, there's always people that are getting 10, 25, 30 year certificates of recognition. So that also tells you that they like coming and volunteering at the town of Gawler, and you know, they're here for a long, long time. So I think that's a good reflection of positive culture as well. So congratulations to everyone involved with the volunteer program.
Any other speakers? In that case, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. 7.3, cultural and heritage signage replacement and dual naming of parks and reserves. We'll get a mover and a seconder. Mover, Councillor Hughes. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Little, do you speak? Yep.
Thank you. I think that some of these signs are way overdue in updating and fixing, and I think it's been really good in previous discussions on the reconciliation plan meeting. Linda's working with the Ghana people to make sure that they are culturally sensitive, because there was some outdated sort of information and ideas that are no longer appropriate. So yeah, no, I'm quite happy to, and I just think the work that's been going on behind the scenes on this has been fantastic, and really to commend it, because it's really important, and sometimes it's very sensitive and difficult, but yeah, it's really good stuff. So very happy with the officer's recommendation.
As a seconder wish to speak?
Yeah, actually, we spoke about a bit of this in the wrap in relation to those signs, especially some of the wording in relation to Aboriginal Indigenous people in the town, which was a good concept. So that's why I was quite happy to second it, because I think the town, I've been on the wrap now 2.5 years, and I think the way this town's moving towards Indigenous and people being together is magnificent, and this is just another way to enhance that project.
You had a question?
The Song of Australia sign was removed because there's a whopping great big pipe there that the MFS insisted had to go. So I'd really like to know where this sign's going to go, because yeah, you haven't got a lot of room there, and we need access up the alleyway, and it can't be in the middle of the footpath. So just a clarification about where that sign's going to go.
So through the chair, we need to obviously be sensitive to all those issues. We're going to get it as close as possible to the original location. That's all the information I have at the moment. What I can do though is take on notice and get back to the committee the exact location once our signage installation company have come out to mark that out.
So just to be clear, we won't end up with a sign that's obstructing the footpath? I say that because when we were doing the Civic Centre, the handrails were all the way across the footpath originally, and we had to cut them back. That was the design. So yeah. So yeah. So isn't there a requirement to have space in with those MFS sort of fire hydrant pipey things? Because you can't put a sign right on top of it, can you? Pipey things. I don't know what they're called. They're massive. Yeah. So what's been the discussion? Can I ask that?
Yes, so through the chair, so we've got the professional signage installation company coming out to do that site layout for us to ensure that we're clear of any obstructions, make sure we're clear of the pipe corridor, but I can 100% guarantee it will not be in the middle of the footpath. That's not going to happen. So provided that it can all fit neatly where it needs to go, it will. If not, we'll have to come back to the committee on a different location within the area, and we can always update our brochures and maps accordingly with that new location, but we're confident we can fit it in the area.
Yep, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The actual cost of the signs down the bottom on page 27, is that per sign or for total?
Can we scroll down on the agenda there?
And the other thing is, I would hope that these signs with all our beautiful businesses in our town are sourced locally. Is that the case? And the third question is, did the community, through any sort of form through the Bunyip, get to know about all this happening?
So through the chair, the cost of the 16,550 is the full cost for all of the signage replacement that's outlined in the report, including new framework for 3 signs. We may not need new framework for all 3 because we do have some of the framework left. We just got to assess its structural integrity when it goes back up. So it could come down from the 16,500. In terms of local procurement, 100% yes. We have a sign installation company and provider on our vendor panel through the Barossa Regional Procurement Group, and they're local to Gawler, so it will be going through them. In terms of going through the Bunyip, it hasn't officially gone into the Bunyip as an advertisement or anything. Public awareness has only been through council reporting forums and also discussions at the RAP.
Do we have any other discussion? If not, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. 7.4, the 2021 Gawler Fringe Review. We did have some good feedback from Martin Johnson earlier. Mayor's happy to move that way. Councillor Fraser, second to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, congratulations to everyone involved in the delivery of the 2021 Gawler Fringe. I think it was an outstanding success. I think the new format of a Friday night only and then having boutique events across the month was fantastic. The Fringe in the Park was very well attended, and it's really, really fantastic to see that Fringe going out into our suburban parks and not just the town centre. I think that's been a really well received addition to our Fringe activities, and it really gets people in our communities, in our neighbourhoods, able to engage and not have to sort of come into the town centre where they may not feel comfortable or they may not feel, you know, that they're engaged. So I think that doing that type of activity is something that I'm really, really interested in. Yeah, so that's all I've got to say. I think long may it continue.
Seconded to speak.
Yes, just to agree with the Mayor, I think it was a great success. I didn't actually attend the Fringe in the Park, but I think it's the second year it's been in the same park. Maybe next year we could try it in a different park, just to spread it around a little bit. That's just a suggestion anyway.
Yeah, and there was some feedback around, I guess, mixing up, having a variety of performers from Martin Johnson. I don't know if there was any thoughts on that from the staff.
Through the chair. Absolutely, we aim to have a variety of performers each year. This year we did have a variety of different events that brought in some new performers. Some were the same. This year's Fringe was also very locally focused following COVID, and we wanted to support local artists as much as possible. There was opportunity for a lot of new emerging artists, young people to perform at this year's Fringe. So in Walker Place, as well as at the Fringe in the Park events as well.
Yeah, because in previous years, we've sort of used, you know, for example, the Sunday to have more of a sort of school kids and that sort of thing focus. So I guess it's, you know, just being able to include all those different groups. Yeah. Councillor Kosh.
Quick question. With the Friday night, is there any view about having it more family friendly? For example, not having alcohol on the night?
Through the chair, that's something we can consider, or the committee can consider in the planning for next year's Fringe events. I think that was raised in a report as an option in the lead up to the 2021 Fringe. So we can revisit that.
Yep, Councillor Fraser.
Was there a problem with the alcohol? Did we have a problem, an incident? Or?
I think that was general commentary, but did you have a?
Oh, yeah, I suppose my concern is the cost of having a licensed venue, because that actually adds, because it costs us $51,000. And I know that the cost of putting fencing, you need to put fencing up if you haven't, if the venue serves alcohol. So by not serving alcohol, you actually reduce your costs, because so that 51 could actually be reduced, for example.
Yep, Mayor.
I just want to clarify, was there any incidents from alcohol-associated violence?
Through the chair, no, there weren't any incidents.
All right, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I shudder at the cost of what it costs for such a one-night stand. The amount of security guards, staff that I saw there on the night, you know, nobody would have stepped out of line. I mean, Mr. Norton probably would have cleaned them up straight away if anybody did. But it's the fact that I would like to see that the Fringe, with the amount of money that we spent last year, and it'll be more this year, and that it's really showcasing local artists. And the only comments I had back was there's so many very talented artists that attend our, you know, the various schools, and that they're competing. For instance, one of the artists, and that was at the huge football show on Saturday night, playing the drums and things like that. You know, but they weren't in the Fringe. And I'm just wondering how much work is done to encourage those local people, because certainly Linda and David and the committee probably don't know all of the people that are out there promoting our community. But I'd like to see more that anybody that's talented, I mean, the legend, Martin Johnson, I mean, you know, he had more people attend his concerts than we had attend this one. You know, over time, I've been to a couple of his shows and things like that. And I can't believe the amount of people who come. And he certainly doesn't spend much money, and it doesn't cost much to get him there. So I'd like to see that there was a bit more effort put into making sure that anybody that's talented and that is showcasing our district is part of that festival somewhere, you know, along the line, with the amount of money that we're spending, which is ratepayers' money.
All right, did we have any other discussion? If not, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Unanimously carried. Next up, 7.5 draft digital marketing strategy. Do we have a mover for this one? Yep, Mayor moves, so wish to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. There wasn't a lot in what, from what I could tell, and I might have missed it, around how the new digital marketing strategy would encompass the app. It is an issue getting the app to be used and be functional and to be a needed part of council services and marketing. I think the strategy also was quite task orientated, if I may say so. I was looking for a bit more high level, long-term strategic vision in the document. However, this is a noting report, and we will get a final strategy document back. Thank you.
And a seconder, Councillor Kosh, to speak.
Yeah, look, I actually enjoyed reading both of those documents. It laid out good learning principles, as I would call them, creating the narrative, having succinct messages you want, and then repeating those in different ways. And by having those, then you can target your messages. Also, I'm quite, what was interesting also was that the need to create good content. If you've got good content, the message will come across. So as long as you've got the message sorted out, what you want, and the content, and you put it on the right forum, the right delivery platform, in which you could get some good outcomes. So I'm quite happy with both those reports, and quite happy to support this. Thank you.
Do we have any other discussion? Yeah, I'll just say that I thought this was a good document. As the mayor said, I think I did get the impression that they considered the app to be just as a standard app, and just mentioned it as a sort of a little snippet of the website, basically. But I think it's something that these are good guidelines to work on. I think it might be good to see maybe some, I don't know, KPIs or just targets, or things to more specifically, long-term goals to achieve, because this is something where we are doing this as something managing things day to day, but it is also something where we're doing this because we have something that we want Gawler to look like in 30 years. We want to have people say, oh, this is such a responsive council, and I'm aware of the things that go on, and when I have a question, on Facebook, it gets answered quickly, that kind of thing. So, but in general, I thought it was a good strategy. So, if there's no other discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimously carried. (7.6) after hours phone service review. Do we have a mover for this one? Or a mover for a version of this motion? All right, Deputy Mayor, did you wish to speak?
Yes, I do, because I think it's crap, but it's not working. So many people that ring us, and we are elected members, elected by the community. The amount of times when all of a sudden there's a burst water main, or, something's happened, somebody's knocked over a pole, or whatever it may be, every employee of this council that is in a fairly senior role has a mobile phone that this council pays for. A number of people that work in this council, a number have vehicles. All we want to know as elected members is their names and number, which is kept in confidence by us as elected members. We don't hand it out willy-nilly to anybody or tell anybody that they should ring somebody when they might be having a day off or whatever it may be. but we don't end up like a mushroom. In other words, at the moment, I've been saying it for quite some time to the CEO, is so many beautiful people work for this council, 133 of them. I've been in Gawler for a long time, and people will run into me at Woolworths. I know I'm a funny looking fella, and they'll say, "Hello, how are you, Deputy Mayor? It's great to talk to you." And I think, who the hell are you? I don't even know you. I think it's all wrong. There has to be more of a personal connection from elected members to the beautiful staff that we have working here. For us to have, if it's to do with the dog, you know, oh, but the guy's on the weekend off or the lady's on the weekend off. We should be able to still ring them and for them to give us a 2-minute phone call as to where to go to fix up that problem. At the moment, phone 229111. Might be from Afghanistan, from Hong Kong, from Melbourne, whatever. You never get an answer. And I'm sorry, it's happened to me a lot of times. So I'm moving the motion because it's got to be changed. It's got to be made better. And I would hope that elected members would think about what I'm saying and have their say here now. Because if you haven't had a problem, well, I must be the only idiot council that gets people to ring me.
Man, Mr. Seconder.
Yeah, so I back up what the Deputy Mayor has said. I can't get through whenever I ring. And one time I was on hold for 20 minutes and then I hung up. It's completely unacceptable. That was over the Christmas break. That's happened 2 or 3 years in a row. Yes, I have brought it up on many occasions. When this needs to improve. It's really frustrating as the Mayor to not be able to get in contact with anyone. And I shouldn't have to ring staff who are not on call, who then calls the person on call, who then, I think, sorts it out. And one of those incidents was a funeral director who couldn't get in contact with staff over the Christmas break, you know, to actually organise a burial. It's really, really not the customer service that we should be providing. And we pay for this service, and we also have staff on call, getting paid on-call rates. And as you said, Brian, they have mobile phones. And I think there needs to be some sort of middle ground. I know many councils use this service, but clearly I don't believe that this service is providing us what our expectations are. A funeral director should be able to get through to council, no matter when, to be able to arrange a burial. They shouldn't have to ring the Mayor, who then is on hold for 20 minutes, hangs up, eventually got through to David over the Christmas break. But yeah, I'm completely unimpressed with the current service. And yeah, I'll tell anyone who wants to listen, we need to do better. Now, when it comes back, I would expect to have, you know, in this report that the company's saying that their KPI is 3 minutes. Well, every time I've rung, I've been on hold much longer than 3 minutes. And I'm sure, and I get feedback from residents, just like all elected members do, who say, I couldn't get through. I've tried several times, been put on hold. And that's when they ring me or an elected member. But we're not the after hours on-call staff. We're the elected member group. And yeah, I just think I'm looking forward to a better service. So yes, I really do look forward to what the company come back with and what staff, what their recommendations are accordingly.
Councillor Koch.
Yeah, look, I'm looking for some recommendations and a better service. I had a situation where we had 2 rampaging dogs. I rang up the after our service. It probably wasn't in their script. You know, basically had to hang up, rang up again. Still wasn't in their script. And they basically said, oh, we'll log it and give it to the officer when they come in. So 2 rampaging dogs, putting people at risk. Eventually the officer did come around, but it wasn't a very good service. So not happy at all. Thank you.
Do we have other discussion on this one? Otherwise, put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Next up, 7.7, Essex Park and Gawler Showgrounds master plan. Do we have a mover for this one? Mayor is moving a version of this.
Yeah, I'm happy to move, but having read the report, and most of us have a good understanding of Essex Park and the showgrounds and the community groups and sporting clubs that use it. But just on the female change rooms, I think we can do a bit better than the modular over at the netball courts. I think we can consider incorporating female change rooms into a future planning and design. So I'm going to put that up and test the waters and see what people think, and then I'll talk to it. So I'm suggesting and put a new point 4 that says consideration be made to include female change rooms into any planning and design for the future upgrade / new build of the Sports and Recreation Centre. And if I can speak to that.
Yep.
So I think this is a fantastic plan. I think it's highly ambitious and aspirational, but that's what we need to do. We need to be planning long term for this precinct. This is a regional solution for sports and recreation, not only for Gawler, but for the region, but also for the growing communities of Gawler East and also Concordia would be using this precinct. So if we look at it in that context, 129 million doesn't sound like very much for all of those people, which will be around about 60,000 people long term. So I think if we can deliver this over the next 10 to 20 years, I think it would really address many of our sporting gaps that we have now. I've included female change rooms into the overall new build of the rec centre because I think we can incorporate female change rooms into a new build if we get the design right. Currently, female football is played on a Sunday. It's not, and who knows when it'll be played in the future, and who knows who will be using those change rooms. Many different people will be using those change rooms and needing showering facilities of different kinds. So I think it's appropriate to plan for different kinds of change rooms within the new build rather than having a modular over at the netball. So that's just, I think, consideration to be made to include female change rooms into any planning and design for the future upgrade new build of the Sports and Recreation Centre. And you can actually tweak with a brand new build. You can really coordinate your wet areas exceptionally well and get quite a big bang for buck. So I think you can get cubicles, shower cubicles, as against shower areas, and for many different people, for both male and female, but also non-binary people as well, because times are changing and we need to cater for many different kinds of people. So I think I'm incorporating that in as a new point 4. Consideration be made to female change rooms to include female change rooms into any planning and design for the future upgrade new build of the Sports and Recreation Centre. So it's just consideration, incorporating that into planning so that that centre actually works better than just having male change rooms, because I think that will become quite obsolete very quickly. So overall, I think this is a really, really good plan. I think it's got a good process going forward. Point 9 touches on the car club and ongoing discussions there, which I think are quite productive. And I think also this addresses some of the issues around our showgrounds. It really is a very, very good plan right across from the aquatic centre all the way down to the showgrounds and the netball courts right down the base of this plan. Thank you.
All right, we'll just make sure that's worded right up on the board there. Yep, that's, yeah, just have to sort out the renumbering, yep. Yep, Deputy Mayor?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'd certainly like to congratulate Bryce Norton and his team and the consultants that went into this, and certainly this report, there's no doubt about it, it's first class. And what Mayor Redmond has added is most important, because any large events like the Gawler Show, toilet blocks have to come on in and so forth to cater. That's just not on. If we're going to do this, we've got to do it properly. We've got to have the right facilities there so that that sort of stuff doesn't have to be hired in afterwards. And as Mayor Redmond said about the fact of the Gawler Show and maybe some moving around of some of the buildings or whatever there, I see it's great. And certainly, you know, I'm not one for spending money, but when you consider how much is in this report and what it takes in all the way around to the tennis courts, we'll probably, you know, have Ash Barty over here playing in a couple of years once that's finished. And it's just fantastic. So congratulations to all of those that have been involved with this report.
Do we have any other speakers? Councillor Little?
Yeah, I'd just like to say I agree with Deputy Mayor and the Mayor on most of all this. I like the point that the Mayor's brought in about the women's change rooms. At the moment, when in my capacity with the women's football, not only on Sundays do we have the need for change rooms, but we now have a lot of female umpires who now participate on a Saturday. So it'd be a great incentive, because those poor girls now don't have anywhere to get changed with the umpires. They just go in there and come home. So this would be a great another incentive. And when you consider the Brosselite and Gawler Football League have produced 3 female umpires into the SANFL and 1 into the AFL, we should be doing something like this. So I think it's a great step forward.
Any other discussion? If not,
through the chair, I'd just like to provide some commentary in regards to the Mayor's addition, if you're happy with that. So in regards to change rooms within not only the Sport and Community Centre, but across the precinct within the showgrounds there, they'd all be designed in a universal design manner. So they wouldn't be the planning of male and female toilets and change rooms per se. They could be used for both male or females, obviously working the logistics through that there. So that would incorporate cubicles rather than an open plan shower and change room scenario. So it would all be able to be utilised for male and female players and umpires throughout that time. So there is the expectation that the modular change rooms have been incorporated here to be able to provide an additional set of change rooms in the shorter term there. Very much aware of how Gawler Central use the precinct at the moment in terms of having back-to-back games that are both male, female, junior, senior, and being able to provide an additional set of change rooms that can be utilised for that, both Gawler Oval and Princes Park, as well as being utilised by the Netball Club. There would also be spatially has been provided within the area there for the Gawler Sport and Community Centre as a new build, the development of 2 sets of change rooms within that, and they will both be designed in a universal way, so they could be used for male, female, junior, senior, across both Princes Park, Gawler Sport and Community Centre, and for Gawler Oval as well.
all right, so if there's no other discussion, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Next up, policy review for these 3 policies. Mayor moves. Do you wish to speak? No. Seconder? Councillor Fraser, did you wish to speak? Any discussion? Councillor Little and Councillor Koch?
Yeah, one part of the policy attachment 2, the members to use their own, not to use their own email addresses. I had a clause with Deputy Mayor Samble to do that when we had the investigation on the CEO, because it was supposed to be kept in confidence, and we were instructed by the solicitor at the time not to use council emails because it was supposed to be private at that time. So I don't know how we'd have to word it. Yeah, we have to change, I think, that. In that area, just slight change that if it's a confidential matter relating to a council member or staff, the council people who are involved in the investigation should be able to use their private
So-
emails.
Do the mover and the seconder accept that?
As the mover, I agree. I should have picked that up and I didn't. Council members are not, so we're looking at page 290 on the attachments. Council members are not permitted to forward council documents to their personal or use their personal email account to conduct council business. The exception, David, you're very good with words. So David's thinking. Yeah, by exception.
By
Would it be
exception
by
of
exception?
advice from the ombudsman or something like that.
By exception, if advised, if in relation to a sensitive matter, council members have been advised, officially advised, via legal advice, for example, officially advised to use private emails for a sensitive matter, then probably needs to go through a process to be approved, wouldn't it?
Yeah, can you use microphones?
As well, is that I think it has to be approved by the council that, right, say, Councillor Kosh and Councillor Fraser are authorised to investigate, say, Councillor Davies. The council then gives them the authority to use the private emails to keep it in confidence until they present the actual report to council. That's what I'm getting at. Okay. Sorry, I'll turn it.
So through the chair, the wording needs a bit of fleshing out, and I'm not sure whether we're going to get to the bottom of that tonight. My suggestion is that we defer that policy to the July CCS. Staff will take that information back. We'll rework the policy, ensure that we dot all the I's and cross the T's, so to speak, and present that policy back to the July CCS. It's still within realm of the dates. So if we just remove the information technology support from the motion, and we just do one and safe environments and volunteer management, we'll bring the other policy back for July with all of that fleshed out.
Does the seconder agree with that as well? Yeah. Councillor Kosh? Sure. Well, that one's no longer in the motion, but sure. Can you, with your microphone?
It's 14.4. It talks about council members who do not comply with this policy may be subject to disciplinary action, etc., etc. What is the disciplinary action? Didn't state that.
So through the chair, there's various different ones. So I'll take that on notice and we'll bring that back within the policy review report for July, if that's okay.
Is there any other discussion on this motion? Otherwise, I'll move that motion. All those in favour? Unanimously carried. And the other one, I don't know if we need to defer or if it's just automatically deferred. Yeah, we'll just leave it. Okay. So that brings us to, does that bring us to point 8? Yes, items listed for discussion. No, items listed for discussion at future meetings. I think I might be interested in hearing some follow-up on this thing with the Gawler Squash Club. I don't know. Yeah, that's currently ongoing, but I don't know if that's something for a future, or if it's just a general question, or if there are any. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with the chair. I think it's an item for a future discussion because there is a meeting coming up. They've asked, but I can't go to it unfortunately. But I think it is. I think it's a great item for a future meeting. I think we need to have a look at it again.
I've been asked to have a meeting with South Gawler Football Club and the Squash Club that's coming up in the next week or so with the CEO, staff, and also representatives, and the new president, Simon Curnow. The Squash Club have had an AGM, and I think all elected members have received some information in that regard. And I believe there's going to be a request for, in fact, I've received a request for the Squash Club to speak at our next council meeting, and that's going through the motions at the moment. There is a open night on the 17th of May. I can't go. I've got it's only next Monday night at 7 p.m. So yes, there is some work if that's of any assistance, but I think that's more than appropriate to be on this meeting's list.
Did we have any other items for future meetings? Otherwise, we'll move on to questions without notice. Do we have any of those? Or do we have any motions without notice, Mayor?
I'd like to, as a result of the DV network presenting tonight, I'd like to present a motion without notice. And I'll read this out. Sorry, Connie. So my motion is that staff investigate the opportunity to incorporate a place of courage or memorialisation area, comma, as part of the new pocket park along Julian Terrace. There's a point 2, staff to liaise with the Gawler Domestic Violence Network in this regard, full stop. And a point 3, which just talks about a report coming back to this committee. So a report be brought back to a future CCS, an update report be brought back to a future CCS meeting. So I will just quickly speak. Do you want me to read that out again?
I'll just make sure the staff have got that one. Speak to it.
So just following on from the presentation tonight, I don't believe that there's any motion to give staff enough direction to work with this group. So I think it's appropriate to have something on the books. So this is about staff investigating the opportunity. It's about staff working with the DV network to see whether what this memorial, how far we can take this memorial. At this stage, it's just an investigation. It's a liaison with the group, and it's a report to come back, an update of where they're at with this idea. So they've used the term place of courage or memorialisation area. They talked about doing a mosaic mural on the back of the mural that will be put, the Jeff New mural. I think that's a fabulous idea. The DV network and Zonta do a memorial service every year in the 5th Street Playground Park. It's really well attended. It's attended by SAPOL. There's usually 4 or 5 members of SAPOL. There's 3 domestic violence workers in SAPOL now in Gawler. It is a major issue for our community, but all communities. I think that what they're describing is a really respectful mural. I don't think it'll be in people's face. I don't think it'll be controversial, but it'll have a lot of power. I think flowers and an image of a mother and a child is very powerful. And I think that what they're describing is a really strong community project. They've also got ideas of how they can generate and self-fund it, which I think is also really responsible. So this motion is about staff, allowing staff to work with this group, allowing staff to investigate the opportunity, and then bringing back a report.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Little to speak?
I think it's a great idea. I mean, a man with a couple of daughters, I'm quite pleased that they got involved with some great blokes, but having my past experiences, there's a lot of blokes out there who aren't in that frame of mind, and a place for women that can go and reflect and remember and not forget what occurred and keep it in people's minds and up front to them is a good start in relation to maybe slowing it down. I don't think you'll ever completely get rid of it. I'd love to see that day, but this will be a good help to try and slow it down and give awareness, and especially young women now, young girls, 13, 14, 15, to say it's not right and to stand up for themselves and just to show what can happen if they don't do that. And I think it's a great initiative, and the council is made, and the costings will come back. I don't think it'll be over great because they'll get funding, and then it's quite a worthwhile cause. And just an aside, I don't know if you don't know now, but the new boss of the Brosselite area now is a female chief inspector. First time ever. So she's now, I'm working with her on Thursday. So I'll pass on what we're trying to do and see what her feedback is like.
Yeah, just double checking the wording's correct. Yep, all good. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I totally support what Mayor Karen has said, and also Councillor Little. But is there a bigger picture here where I've heard this pocket park, but is that something new? I know I'm old. I haven't heard it before, but is this a new name for that area? I thought it was the old Dunny site, but it's now pocket park. So the thing is with it that I think we all sadly know, Councillor Little would certainly see more of this than most of us, but suicide prevention has become such a huge thing at the moment, and I don't think there's a paper I don't pick up and there's something in there about a meeting and so forth. And there's probably euthanasia, all these sort of things. Is it an area where, I think somebody said, where we can go and remember, or, you know, is it worthwhile looking at it being a special place? Not a pocket park, special place sounds better, but I'm not sure. I just wonder, now we've got the Jeff New Memorial, you know, artwork going to go back there, and then your suggestion on the other side, but is there room maybe for a triangle type thing where other people or other groups could be involved with it? Because sadly, there's a lot of terrible things that are happening in our world, and we should remember them.
So do we have any other discussion on this one? Otherwise, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Are there any other motions without notice? No. Otherwise, I will close the meeting. I just bang the gavel to close the meeting at 8:20.